How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, the weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. I read all my books. We're going to go over them next. I'm going to go ahead and put my grading scale up every time I cover a book. I'm going to put the cover of that book on the grading scale so you see how they stack up against each other. So we're going to start in the big two. I only have one Marvel book, and I'm going to just briefly cover it because it wasn't that great of a book, I don't think. We have X-Men, Immortal X-Men rather, issue number 8 from Karen Gillan. Now, this is a mostly Raven and Destiny-centered book, Mystique and Destiny, talking about interactions with like Mr. Sinister in the past. And it's mostly a commentary between Destiny and Mystique, mostly from like the Mystique standpoint, talking about, you know, how she thinks about Destiny herself, some of the secrets she may have had, some of the interactions they had from a long time ago, which I'm not the biggest X-Men head, and I'm trying to figure out like, well, how are they alive all the way back then? Like, how old are these people? They have some interesting past events that they talk through, and they were like decades and decades ago. So it's kind of interesting to see. A lot of it's set in kind of like old-timey days. They're interacting with like Mr. Sinister back then. They're trying to like uncover his plans and things like that. He's going through some kind of like identity crisis and whatnot. And it kind of reveals a little bit of the origin of the other Mr. Sinisters with like the different card suits on their heads, like the diamonds and clovers and things like that. And spades and hearts. It touches on that a little bit as well. So we get a little bit of an origin, I suppose, of that. Coloring wise, art wise, it was okay. Not too breathtaking. The story didn't really intrigue me at all. Didn't really like what was going on. I'm kind of out of this right now a little bit, and not really sure how I'm thinking about X-Men, Immortal X-Men at the moment. It doesn't tie into the Axe Judgment Day arc that we just got out of, like all the other episodes or issues did. So that was kind of weird too. It looks like it's heading more towards that Sinister event that we're going to have pretty soon, I think in the spring or summer of next year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that was what I thought about this. Not a great one. Probably a pass. I don't know if I'm going to continue reading Immortal X-Men anymore. I don't know. What do you guys think? The next book we read is actually over in DC. We have World's Finest, Batman Superman issue number 9. Got that awesome cover variant with the capes blowing back in their face. They're trying to stand all heroic and whatnot, and their capes are just blowing right in their face. I thought it was pretty funny. So I went ahead and picked that one up. What a great story. So Mark Waid's doing a great job of introducing new characters. He's keeping this real innocent vibe going. I just love the way that he's telling the story. It feels grounded. It feels present day. It doesn't feel as dark and brooding as the main DC stuff right now. The main Batman run, main Superman run, all that kind of stuff is pretty dark and pretty fast paced. This kind of like takes its time. It lets moments breathe a little bit. We were introduced to a new character. I think they're going to call him Boy Thunder, something like that. He has a very similar origin to Superman himself. He kind of crash landed. He's got a mysterious past, a tragic past. His parents have died. He's trying to get over that. He's trying to get over some survivor guilt. And so Kara, Supergirl, is actually trying to help him through that. And he's got a lot of mentors right now. He's got his own suit. He's working with Batman, working with the Teen Titans. He's working with Superman, trying to like get this superhero stuff down. You know what I mean? And so there are some villains out there who really enjoy messing with sidekicks. Joker is now involved, and he's got a plan to kind of corrupt this Boy Thunder the only way that he knows how. And so it's a cool issue about what that plan might be, some of the motives or some of the ways he can get his hands on this new sidekick. It's pretty fun. It's just a really great story. The voice that he uses when he is writing this book, it just reads so quickly, so naturally. It makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of second guessing. There's nothing hidden in this book. It's just really fun, straightforward, has a nostalgic vibe to it, has all the characters we love, and it brings in new characters, and it's great to see how they all interact together. So it's just a really, really cool run. If you're into that kind of stuff, check out World's Finest and Batman vs. Robin, which I think will be wrapping up in an issue or two, but it's a direct tie-in to this. Read this first, though. It's great. That was actually it for DC as well. We're going to move over into Boom Studios. We got several different indie books that we're going to cover. We're going to go into Boom next. We have Something is Killing the Children. We have issue number 26. Jamestown in the 4th. We basically have just another build-up issue between Erica Slaughter and the Cutter, who is on her way to take Erica out. A lot of this is more about Gabby's interaction, the little girl that she meets. Gabby actually saw her family get ripped apart by a monster, and so now Erica's involved. She's helping out the family, helping her out a little bit, trying to understand what's going on, trying to take this very unique, very powerful monster on by herself, and she's not doing a great job of it because this particular monster is extremely hard to take down with just one hunter. And so Erica's a little bit out of her league at this point. So not only does she have to deal with this unique monster that's just wrecking shop right now, but she also has to deal with essentially this assassin that's been sent out to take her out. And now they're about to kind of throw down here in the next couple of issues. So it is still pretty cool. It's still a great issue, or it's still a great run. The art has really matured over time. The line work and everything has been just insanely good. I really like that art style. It's really kind of come into its own. Story-wise, it's kind of dragging. It's like, man, we were introduced to this cutter lady several issues ago, and she said, yeah, I'm on the case, man. I'm going to take Erica out. And it's just been like a slow creep and a weird release schedule to get to where we are, and we're still not to that big climax yet. So still an interesting run. Something's Killing Children is still a great book. I would say the first dozen or so issues was the peak, and we're kind of slowly either plateauing or we've reached our plateau already and it's kind of going down just a little bit, but it still offers enough to keep me interested, keep me intrigued. And so that's where we are with Something's Killing Children. Let me know if you guys agree with that down below. We have a new #1 from Vault Comics from Colin Bunn, Door to Door, Night by Night. Picked this one up because Colin Bunn's a great writer. He's got a great imagination. He's got some really interesting stories that he tells. Sometimes the execution's a little bit off, and sometimes the artwork doesn't really match or do it for me. That's not quite the case in this one. The art is actually pretty interesting. There's some good paneling in here. There's some weird stuff. I'll get to that here in a minute. But essentially, we have our story of, we have these door-to-door salesmen, and they're basically selling these coupons for money. It's like a ragtag team, a bunch of misfits and miscreants all getting together, trying just to do something positive, make a few bucks, and then go party at night, right? So it's all these adults doing all this stuff. We come across this girl. She gets adopted into this gig, and she's running from her own stuff. Her background's a little bit mysterious. We understand what her background is as the story unfolds, and so that ends up being the whole theme of the rest of the book. I will say that Colin Bunn does a great job of bringing all these characters together, having interesting, engaging conversations. Some of the relationships that develop pretty quickly are interesting. That's pretty cool to see. Everybody seems to have a voice, which is good. Sometimes characters get lost in the background, but all these characters seem to be at least interesting, and I'm anxious to know like where they come from, more about their background, how they're going to play a role in the future story. You know, with that said, the thing at the end, the big problem that's revealed is essentially kind of a monster hunter situation. The monster that we initially get introduced to is kind of weird and hokey. It just looks bad, I think, honestly. I think if the visual was just different, I think if the art style was different, the story would come across a little bit better. But it is interesting, and it was kind of fun to see. Let me know what you guys think about that if you actually read this book. I'll give you a hint of what the art style is. This is just our main team here kind of hanging out at a bar after a long day's work, spending all the hard-earned money that they got that day before they eventually run into their monster. There's a cool little twist at the end when they introduce the monster, and so I'll let you read that and see where it goes from there. So interesting premise, yet again, interesting premise from Colin Bunn. The execution was okay. The art style, I think, didn't quite match the type of storytelling we needed here, and so that kind of took me out of it. The next book we read was from Dark Horse. We have Jeff Darrow on Shaolin Cowboy Cruel to Be Kin, issue #7. What a spectacular run this has been. 7 issues. We are done with this arc right now. It was everything everyone said it was going to be. I didn't have any experience with the Shaolin Cowboy going in, but as soon as I read issue 1, I kind of understood the pacing and the kind of artwork and storytelling we were gonna get. It is completely over the top. It is ridiculous. It is absurd. And I loved every minute of it. There wasn't a single issue in the 7-issue run that I didn't put at least probably in my top 3 to 4 that week. Every one of them knocked it out of the park. The Shaolin Cowboy is a force to be reckoned with, and so is the art style by Darrow here, and the coloring, because it took a whole team to color this book. They are a force to be reckoned with as well. It's just unbelievable. I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to show you, flash a little page here, and you can expect to see what you can expect from the art style. It is absolutely incredible what they're able to do in here, and it's not just one page in each book. It is every single page. It's just a remarkable amount of work that went into it. So I highly, highly applaud that creative team. But I mean, the great thing there is it just doesn't stop at the art. The storytelling was intriguing. It was heartfelt. You felt like it was kind of the end for the Shaolin Cowboy a few different times, but he just perseveres. He pulls through. He pulls on his past advice that he got from different mentors, and he just kind of gets the job done. So the creativity from a storytelling perspective and the art was insane with this. Highly recommend this one. Pick up the trade. And I'm very anxious to get the other Shaolin Cowboy stuff, so if you know of other runs out there, let me know in the comments which one I should be picking up. Jumping over to Image Comics, we have a few Image books to go through. We have 10,000 Black Feathers, issue number 3 from Jeff Lemire. We have Andrea Sorrentino and Dave Stewart on this one. And this is going to be one of those books where we have a lot of demons from the past kind of creeping up, some metaphoric stuff going on, some supernatural things happening. We have this girl who's basically revisiting a childhood friend. That friend went missing at some point in their childhood. After they kind of grown apart maturity-wise, they go over that exact moment of when that happens. They went from kind of hanging out in the basement to one kind of maturing and wanted to branch out and go party and do stuff with other people. Something bad happens to that person, and there's some kind of supernatural element tied into this, or the main character's having a psychotic break. Either one could be happening. Who really knows? But with Andrea Sorrentino's art, it is very engaging. It's very dark and moody. It's something that you have to think about sometimes when you see it, because it's not necessarily straightforward. And so it really kind of puts you in this mindset of like, is this really happening, or is this kind of like a psychotic break? I don't know what's going on. We have this dialogue that's happening right now. It seems to be bi-directional, but the source of that other dialogue is just not known yet. And so we're going to see what's going on as this goes forward. If you like dark, moody, supernatural-esque, psychotic kind of books with very cool artwork, check this one out. We have a new #1 that just came out, and I feel like I know this story already from Image. We have Chroma #1 from Lorenzo De Felici, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm pronouncing that right. Very cool book, very cool cover. We essentially have this little child in the fetal position who's kind of like surrounded in this skeleton type thing, like this monster skeleton. And that actually plays forward into the story as well. So after you see this, you're like, that's interesting art. But they kind of explain it in the issue itself. And like I said, I feel like I read a preview for this book in something else, in perhaps another Image book, maybe a few months ago, because the basic premise was there, especially a couple scenes. I feel like I've read it before. But basically we have this civilization who's been boiled down essentially to this small little communion because there are these lizard monsters who actually attack everything, and they found out the way to evade those monsters is to rid themselves of all colors. So they've grown generation by generation. Presumably they've evolved in a certain way to kind of rid themselves of color. I'm talking skin pigment, I'm talking hair, I'm talking eye color, everything they interact with, everything they build, everything they touch, they've been able to wipe out all color. I'm not necessarily sure if it's some kind of a paint or something like that, because they even wander out of the town a little bit into the wild, and there's no color in that certain area as well, which kind of leads me to believe there might be something else going on. But essentially we follow these group of kids who are kind of maturing through the ranks right now. They're joining this very like spiritual regime inside of their society. And so they're kind of exploring some of the things they're going to have to overcome at some point. There's a ritual that they explore at the very beginning of this, kind of like an annual thing to kind of remember the struggles, remember why we're doing the things we're doing. And they come across a monster haven't quite seen before. And it's this monster right here on the cover. And what's very interesting is that one of the little boys that we're focusing on is particularly interested in this girl. And so what does that mean exactly, right? Is she a monster? Is she not? What does it mean to stare the monster you've always been told was the bad guy right in the face and kind of understand what they are all about, right? And so it's a pretty fun book. It's pretty fun. It's very intriguing. I'm sure that people way smarter than me can kind of like read to the metaphors of everything that's going on right now. I'm taking it at face value at the moment. There's some things are just not lining up, but it's certainly got me interested. The art in here is great. Like I said, it's a world void of color. Let me show you what that would kind of look like for a minute. So basically we have this town that's completely isolated and it's all just black and white, which is pretty cool. But then you actually explore the outside world, and when they do that, everything brightens right up. You know what I mean? So we have our heroes here embarking into the wilderness right now, and you can see all the trees and stuff all colored. So it's pretty interesting to see. It's got an intriguing story. There's some cool stuff going on. The last page of this was extremely shocking. Did not see that coming at all. We're going to see what happens in the future issues. Let me know if you read it. Next Image book we read was from Jeff Johns. We have Junkyard Joe, issue number 2. And I'm telling you right now, this is contender for Book of the Year, and we're only 2 issues in. I don't think it can hit Book of the Year because of that, but this is definitely reaching the top 10 for sure. This book is absolutely insane. Jeff Johns has a very just silky smooth way to handle the storytelling in here. It's basically a continuation of Geiger, if you read Geiger from the other year, focusing on the character of Junkyard Joe, which we were introduced to near the end of that run. He was actually kind of the military base's last-ditched effort to stop Geiger from doing whatever he was doing at the end of that issue. But this is more focused on the origin of that character. We're in Vietnam. We were put into a squad and into this platoon. We went on a certain mission, and then this Junkyard Joe actually saw the carnage, the chaos, the devastation around him, and actually kind of connected with the soldiers that he was with in an unexpected way. And so that actually has ramifications into the future. What those are exactly, we're going to focus in later issues, but this issue here focuses a few years later. One of those Vietnam veterans is actually kind of living through his life right now, and he actually runs into Junkyard Joe again. But like I was saying, the way that he's able to write the story, it's extremely heartfelt. The artwork is very, very clean. It's very crisp. It's right to the point. And when you mix in the art style and the paneling and everything, it's just very suspenseful. And things, when they happen, you can almost hear the dead air. You can almost hear the snow. You can hear like the wind, and you can let these moments breathe a little bit. And I think they do a great job with that. It's explosive and violent when it needs to be, but this particular issue, there's not a whole lot of that. There's some flashback stuff from here and there. They handle it very, very well. Man, if you're not reading this book, I really recommend picking it up. Read Geiger, and then you can read this. This is also kind of like a standalone thing. You don't need to read Geiger, but if you did, you kind of have an understanding of what this world is that we're living in right now. So check this one out. It's great. Next Image book we read was actually a continuation story of a story I've never even heard of, but it's I Hate Fairyland's issue number 1. This is from Scotty Young, and we actually have Brett Bean on the art. I'm kind of getting annoyed that Scotty Young's not drawing some of his stuff. He didn't draw Twig either, but that art style was awesome. I think he did the Me You Love in the Dark, though. But I Hate Fairylands, from my understanding, it's a continuation. I believe I have a volume 1 trade, but I don't exactly know how much it actually covers of that full run. Basically, we have our girl here. She was actually stuck in Fairyland, and so basically she had to be extremely ruthless just to kind of survive. It was kind of like how I imagine Jumanji, Robin Williams' character, living. He got sent off into Jumanji. He comes back later, and he's like completely changed person. You know what I mean? It's kind of that same kind of thing. And now she's back in reality, learning just to kind of cope, right? Like, what do you do now once you were kind of the queen of that other area? What kind of jobs could you possibly get? Well, we actually have someone here who wants to utilize her experiences for his own gain in here, trying to find a missing person. So we're going to see how that evolves. She has to go back to Fairyland to figure things out. Very cool art style. It's very cartoony. It's very absurd. It's all over the place. There's plenty of color in here. It's actually really fun. I dug this one a lot. There's some just chaos stuff going on. Very, very cool. Didn't know what I was going to expect with this book, but really like what I see so far. Can't wait to see the next issues. All right, and the last book we read was Above Snakes. This is issue number 5 from Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. What an interesting run this was. This is the last issue, and I hope that we get some more from this creative team, or maybe even a volume 2, because I think that would be interesting, although the ending kind of hints towards it and then kind of doesn't at the same time. But basically, we're following this man named Dirt. He was actually out taking care of some business. I think it was like a wartime kind of a situation. He was away from his newlywed wife. His wife kind of fell into some trouble, got mixed up with some of the gangsters and things like that, and she was actually kind of murdered in a way, not maybe directly, but indirectly for sure, because of some debts that she piled up and things like that while husband was away, and he didn't really know about it until he got home. So it's basically a gigantic revenge mission against this person. So in issue number 1, we're kind of attacking it from a low level. We're working our way up the ranks to the main guy. So every issue, we're kind of on the next mission, right? He also has this kind of revenge bird, supernatural bird that he's attached to, that kind of comes to him because the Above Snakes, that group, whenever they kill somebody or something like that, these revenge birds spawn, and one of them had latched on to our main guy right here. So there's a really cool dialogue between the two of them. That little bird's like thirsty for blood all the time. The interaction between them was just priceless and very, very cool. And so that was a lot of fun to see. Of course, we get a lot of those revenge birds towards the end of this book as well. So this is a big hero's journey, basically. Your wife's dead. You're trying to avenge her, taking the revenge on the road, town to town, taking out all the different people. And it's just a great, great read. Hayden Sherman's art style is a lot different than some other books that I'm reading from him right now. Just very, very cool. It's set in the desert, so you have this orange yellow tone throughout the most of the book, but all of a sudden some of the coloring would change depending on where we are. And so when it does stuff like that, it really, really takes an opportunity there, and it really pops. So there's all of our revenge birds and whatnot. Like I said, Above Snakes, I really didn't know what to expect going into this. I knew this creative team was capable of doing some really awesome stuff. They really did deliver. There's only one issue that was kind of down. I think it was issue number 3, if I'm not mistaken, but it was still good from an overall perspective, I think. Check out Above Snakes. It's definitely a good trade read for sure. And if you guys have any more recommendations for Sean Lewis Hayden Sherman books, please let me know. I'm going to be interested in reading those. So guys, that's everything I read this week, and those are my thoughts. I appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, go down below and give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Again, as a reminder, not only do I put content out here on YouTube, also on Instagram. Links will be down below in the description. Thank you for watching again. We'll see you guys down in the comments.